Welcome back to our Wildflower Seeds Block of the Month Sew Along. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on flower number 3, this beautiful sunflower. You're gonna make it 4 times. Each of the sunflowers have a different variation. So this is the block that we're working on today, but you can see how beautiful it looks. And these yellows, our batik yellows, are so pretty. We have a lot of different variety. That's a beautiful version as well. And then this is the last one. I love this little pop of pink in there. So like I mentioned, we are working on this block. And you've already purchased the pattern. This is a Kelli Fannin pattern, but you can also download the Wildflower Seeds supplemental guide from our website, because Kelli on her cover uses the quilting cottons, and we are using in the Sew Along Batiks. And it gives you all the variation of the different batiks we're using in the Sew Along. So let's get started on this big, beautiful flower. I previously cut out all my pieces, and the way Kelli labels her pieces is one color is K. So all these pieces are in K, and then you know the different sizes. We have 2 pieces in L, a couple pieces in A, a couple pieces in I, and 1 in J for that pop in the center. So Kelli does a lot of illustrations, and she tells you how many units to make, and then you put it together with her illustrations. It's really clever how she designs her pattern. So in the pattern, it tells you that we are going to need to make, and you're going to have to be very mindful of your square placement. So we're going to be making 4 units of this, and then you're going to notice this is the mirror image opposite, and 4 units of that. So 2 different units. We're going to be making 4 units of this flying geese, 4 units of this piece, this rectangle with these 2 black squares on the bottom that have been that flip and turn method. And then we've got these, and these are mirror opposites as well. You got these corner flip units, and they're, again, just pay attention because you need to make 4 individual pieces of that. And then I just wanted to show you, you're going to create this one big unit. So there's a lot of pieces in this, and it may seem quite daunting, but I'm going to break it down for you, and it's going to come together beautifully. So let's get started. I'm going to make one of these units, and then you're going to make them all at once. But I recommend chain piecing them, doing all your piecing at once. It wastes less thread, and it's a very effective way to create this block. So let's get started. The first thing first thing I'm gonna do is grab my glasses, and we're gonna grab this L rectangle, this beautiful multicolor batik. Then we're gonna grab the A square, and then we're gonna grab this K square. Now, again, I recommend chain piecing them, doing them all at once. And but I'm going to do 1 unit at a time. And these are the units. Again, you would make 8 of these, and you could do 4 at a time to make sure they're going the right direction. But again, you can see that they are mirror opposites. So it might be helpful to mark them corner to corner. If you don't have a Seam Sew Easy guide, you're going to need to mark them corner to corner. But sometimes if you want to just make sure they're going the right direction, I mark them anyway. And this is going to be your sew line. Let me do my 2 yellows. Oops. Press down a little harder. Okay, so I'm going to put this, you're going to double check So I'm going to put this, I'm going to sew corner to corner on my line. This is the flip and turn method. That's going to be flipped that way, so it'll look like that. This one's going to be the opposite. And that's going to be flipped up that way. I'm going to chain piece these together. And this is one of the tips I give to make on this flip and turn method. That way because what you want is when you trim off this and you flip that over, you just want a complete rectangle. And it helps if you go to a hair to the outside corner, just a thread or two. So when you flip open, that seam doesn't take up a couple hairs and makes your rectangle off. So if you're finding when you flip your, once you do the flip, you flip the square up, your rectangle is not quite a rectangle anymore, try going to the hair or a thread or two to the outside, just ever so slightly to the outside, and I think that'll make a difference in this flip and turn method. So I'm going to lay that on there. And I just line my needle just slightly to the outside of that line. I'm practically on the line, but that's what's called a scant. If you had a seam allowance, you're going to a scant to the outside. Okay. And you can chain piece all 8 of these. Like I mentioned, I'm just doing 2 at a time. So let me clip my threads in between. And you can take a look. There's my drawn line. I'm just a scant to the outside, ever so slightly off the line. Now I'm going to trim down to 1/4 inch from my seam right there. I do both of these. Okay, let's take it to our pressing station. Gonna just set those seams real quick. Now we're gonna flip that open. Get a nice amount of heat. There we go. Let it cool right there. And let's bring it back here. So what we want to see is just that full rectangle. That looks good. And this one is slightly off because I guess I went too much to the outside, ever so slightly. If that happens, you can just give it a quick trim. Again, sometimes you just get off ever so slightly because what you want to do is just have that full rectangle. And it makes a difference. Okay, so there's these 2 units, mirror opposite. Okay, now we're going to add this. It's going to be parallel. The seam is going to be parallel to the opposite corner. So when we open it up, we're just going to have that strip in there. So whichever way that goes, that's going to be opposite. Parallel. Again, I'm going to take it to a machine, and this time ever so slightly to the outside of that marked line. And a reminder, my stitch length has been adjusted to 2.0. Okay. Trim that down. Let's take it to our pressing station. I like to just get that tip of my iron right along that seam right there. That looks great. All right, so we're going to make 4 of each one of these units, 8 in total. Now it's time to make our flying geese. We're going to make this unit 4 different times. So let's grab our L rectangle. It's a really fun multicolored print batik. And then we are going to grab 2 of our canary yellow squares. And again, if you don't have a Seam So Easy guide, we're going to mark corner to corner. And we're going to chain piece them all at once, but I'm just going to make 1 at a time. Okay. So we put that on the corner of our rectangle. That's going to be our sew line. But again, I'm just going to do just a hair to the outside when I sew my line. We're just gonna, so you can kind of see that. There's my line. I'm just ever so slightly to the side. Okay, we're gonna trim that, press it, set that seam, press. And then what we want to see is just that full rectangle, not shorter than we'd like it to be. So we're grabbing our next square, opposite that goes in the middle. So corner to corner, just slightly. Okay. Let's trim it down. Set our seams. Open it up. Okay, so we made our flying geese unit. What we want to see is this point right here is about 1/4 inch from the top of the fabric, and that's ready to go. You're gonna repeat that 4 times for each flower. So then we're gonna grab this rectangle K piece and then 2 black squares. And sometimes even, you know, if it feels a little fiddly, you can take it to your pressing station, give it a quick heat adhesive. And again, I'm not marking this because I do have a Seam So Easy guide. And when I sew this, I'm just gonna line that center line just a hair. So I have a little more room on this side of that line. Using a cream thread so you can really see that on the black. Flip that open. You can finger press it or you can take it to your pressing station. Line that up. Sew right along here. Okay, give it a press, flip open. And take a look. I went a little high on there. Just a reminder that you can trim down. I'm just gonna grab this right here, put that in the center. If it's a little, just gonna trim it off right there. So we're not perfect when we sew, but then we can always trim it down to right where it needs to be. It's easier to trim down than when you're short. Okay, that looks great. So you're gonna repeat that 3 more times. And the next thing we need to create, grab this beautiful long rectangles of this canary yellow and 2 of these A squares. Then we're going to do mirror opposites. And again, sometimes it is, even though I have a Seam So Easy guide, sometimes to keep my brain straight of which direction I'm sewing these on, I will mark them. And they're going opposite. I think I'll give them a little press so that fabric will just settle right on top of that other fabric, and that will be helpful in sewing. Okay, before you cut, check. Yep, those are opposites. Okay, this one popped down on my knee. Let's go press this. Okay, I just finished these 2 units. You just need to make 3 of each one of these. I'm going to set them the side. We'll work on them later. Now it's time to assemble this entire unit. So we've already sewn all these pieces together. Now it's time to assemble this. Okay, I've got it tucked under here, and we're gonna lay it out. So you've got these sewn pieces together. And just make sure your block is turned the right way. Take a look. Oh, we're gonna go that way. I'm gonna put that there. That goes there. That goes there. Okay. So see how that goes together? I'm going to sew this piece together. I'm going to sew that piece together. I'm going to seam it together. I'm going to pin it. Okay. Press it there. Put under the clapper. Nice and flat. Okay, bring it back here. That goes there. That goes there. I'm going to flip that over there. A pin to remind me where I'm starting my stitches. I flip this square over on the top of that unit. Just going to stitch down the side right there. Okay, giving it a quick press. There, open that up. Okay, lay that out there. That's laid out there. I just need to sew this little rectangle piece on there. Okay, let me take it to the pressing station. Open it up. That is how it looks. We just need to flip this over. We have one more seam. I'm going to nest those seams right in the middle. That should be flipping that way. So I'm going to pin at that intersection right there. You can pin on both sides if you'd like, but I think I'm good to go. Set my stitches real fast. Open that up. Okay, and this unit is finished. We can check it real fast to make sure it's 4.5 inches square. It is good to go. So we just need to repeat that 4 or 3 other times to have 4 of these units. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is assemble this unit right here. So we're going to grab this canary yellow with the 2 black corners, the point. We're going to grab our little flying geese unit and then these 2 units. Now these are, you got to pay attention to which direction they're going. So you've got the V of the flying geese, and then this goes down on this side and that goes down on that side. But the first thing we're going to do is sew this flying geese unit on. And when I sew my flying geese, I always flip in the way that I can see my point. So when, and that's kind of got extra thread on that point, but as you're sewing your 1/4 inch seam allowance, you can make sure you just ensure that you don't sew into the point. So I do like putting my flying geese unit on top of my two blocks that I'm sewing together. Okay, let's take it in here. We're gonna just set that seam really quickly and then open it up. And since there's a lot of bulk here, we push the seam, we flip the seam towards this side. We can do a little finger press, give it a good press. But this is what we want to see, this point right on the edge of our seam. It's not cut off, it's right in the perfect position. So let that cool off. We'll bring it back here. And then we're going to flip this over here. Then this will sew on the opposite side. Okay, we'll press both sides at once. Open that up. Open that up. Look how beautiful that comes together. All our points are lining up. We're going to make 3 of those units, and we are ready for our last piecing block, or the center of this flower is this unit, this fun little fabric in the center, and we're going to need 4 of our black pieces. Okay, so here we go. So for each corner, we need 4 of those squares. Let's just take it over to our machine. You're going to either mark it corner to corner or just sew corner to corner on your machine. Okay, let's trim all 4 sides. And then we'll take it to our pressing station. Give it a quick press and open up all these corners. Okay, so that's looking good. We just have a couple black strips we need to sew on the sides. We have one on each side, and then top and bottom. And then our center unit will be finished. So let's just take it over to our machine. And again, you could do all your centers. If you have all your flowers cut out, you can do all your centers at once. Just strip piecing them all together. Okay, let's press this open. Okay, let's press this center unit, the center of our flower. I think I need a little spritz. Sometimes the fabric wants to do its own thing. You give it a little water and it just handles so much better. Okay. And there's the center of our flower. I'm going to finish all my other units. Then I'll meet you back here and we'll assemble our block. Okay, I finished my last one. Let's start assembling our flower block. These are going to go on all 4 corners. This is our center unit there. And then these are our middle units. And now we can start assembling it like a 9 patch. So we're going to flip the outside, or the middle, towards the outside. And then like before, we have a little bulk right there, so I'm just going to make sure my seams line up. That's more important than this part right here. If that's a little off, just give it a little tug, but we want to make sure that's lined up. There. We'll line this up here. Now you do have this little point right here, so make sure you don't sew over your point. There, and then we're going to line, I'm going to put 2 pins on here because we know this is going to be our top. And then we're going to line up those seams right there. Okay, let's go sew. We're going to chain piece together, and then we're not going to clip our threads in between. Okay, let's bring it back over here. Open that up. It's looking good. Okay, we want to see we didn't cut off our point there, and we want to see that those are lining up and they look great. So let's take that outside units, flip them over to the center, and we're going to just start pinning again. We're going to pin here. We're going to pin right on where those seams converge. Pin on top here. Pin on the top here. And again, we'll line up those seams where they come together. Put a pin there. Okay, let's go sew. Okay, let's bring it up back here, open it up. Let's take a look. It's looking good. And now we just have 2 more seams. This is where we're going to nest our seams. So see where that wants to go. Let's see, we're gonna flip it that way. Again, grab our bird pins, nest our seams at those intersections. I'll flip that out. And not cutting your threads helps everything line up. Pin there. And now I'm going to flip it over. We'll just pin this final seam. All right, let's go sew. All right, let's take it to our pressing station. I'm gonna give it a little mist right there. Let's open it up. It's looking good. What we want to see is all of our points lining up. We want these points to be visible. I'll give it another press over here. And this block was a bit of a challenge. The last thing we need to do is make sure it's all squared up. So I'm getting out my 12.5 trim it ruler. And I'm just lining it all up. It's slightly pulling inside, which is okay because when you assemble your quilt, you'll just give it a little tug. I really just have threads on the outside. Just a reminder, the last thing you want to do, you don't want to trim into all these beautiful points. You want to make sure there's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the sunflower quilt block is finished. What a fun challenge this was to sew this quilt block together. It's a beautiful sunflower. So join us next month for flower number 4 in our Wildflower Seeds Sew Along.